This video contains pixelated depictions of blood and gore as part of Doom's gameplay. A while ago, I released my 32-level Doom 2 MegaWAD called Into Sandy Cities. As the name suggests, it's heavily based on Sandy Petersen's level for the original game. So everything you can find in them, you can also find here. If you haven't played it yet, I'd recommend you do, because I will be spoiling pretty much the entire thing. It's out on Doom World and on the Night Dive remaster. I consider this project a sort of art study. I had to analyze his levels carefully to make sure that I only picked the same textures he would have, structured layouts similarly, and so on. And over time, I started learning more and more about his work. I even had to go back to earlier levels and make them look, quote, worse by removing decorations, textures, and other details. I wanted to be as faithful to the originals as possible. And while I'd never dare to say that I understand how Petersen ticks, I think I've got a pretty good idea of his design philosophy. And that's what I'd like to pass on to you guys today, so you can appreciate these maps the same way I do. This could also be completely wrong, but this is how I interpreted it, and I've got all the evidence to back it up. I'd like to begin with the simplest observation, starting with the fact that detail and size are on opposite sides of a spectrum. The bigger the map, the less detailed it is, the smaller a map, the more detailed it is. You can see this very well if you compare the first map, Entryway, to something like the Chasm or Gotcha. The former has a lot of different textures and unique rooms, the latter are mostly just shapes. More on that in a bit. Part of this was due to technical restrictions, but also due to time restrictions. Sandy made most of Doom 2 stages and in less than a year, so focusing too much on one over the other would have been less efficient. While I myself wasn't short on time, this really did help with finishing up some of the larger levels. At some point, you just can't be bothered anymore. Now, I just hinted at it. Sandy really likes shapes and patterns. Stars, rectangles, circles, pentagrams, all of it. So many rooms are just made up of neat-looking shapes that serve as an arena or simple decoration. You can see this in the Chasm's Pinky Room, Suburb's Bloodhouse, or even as early as Doom 1's Fortress of Mystery, and of course the Slough of Despair. Sometimes they span the entire map, sometimes they're made from items, but there's usually a pattern to them. Why? I don't know. For me, it was because it looked nice and because it was an easy way to design a room. It's difficult to come up with a design from scratch, but a star or a symmetrical layout? Now that is easy. Speaking of easy, Sandy's levels are never that hard. There's some moments, of course, but the difficulty either comes from traps or from having massive arenas full of enemies. And instead of adding fewer, tougher enemies, he preferred spamming several smaller ones. It's funny because in some maps like the Pit, there are so many lost souls that the paid elementals can't even spawn any new ones. I think this was the most difficult part for me to adjust to. I usually prefer adding one or two big enemies with a couple smaller ones on the side. Contrast this with Romero's or McGee's levels, which are usually about limiting the player's movement and requiring split-second decisions. Sandy seemed to do the opposite, giving the player as much time as they want to prepare first by exploring the stages and stocking up. Heck, you can also opt out of certain battles early or avoid them entirely. Instead of combat, Petersen liked to focus on puzzles and gimmicks. These are the main feature of his levels and what they're best remembered by. He really enjoyed messing with Doom's engine, pushing it to its limits just to have the player go, huh, that's neat. I won't go into detail about this because I've already made several videos on the topic. I recommend this one as it talks about how these gimmicks benefited gameplay. But just as an example, think of the Pit with its lowering floors, the factory's Cacodemon room, or the entirety of tricks and traps. Or again, Fortress of Mystery from Doom 1 with its infighting demons. And boy howdy was this my favorite part to work on. I think I had the most fun with my equivalent of Downtown, where each building contained a little mini puzzle. Like fighting pinkies on a lowering platform, running in a circle, or moving through an apartment. It's just neat. Anyone can make a cool combat arena, but an Arctic base where you freeze outside? A level that fills up with water or impossible geometry, that's more up my alley. You can even see this in my other projects like Midnight Mercenaries. I love me some gimmicks. And finally, an aspect of Sandy Petersen's levels that's arguably just as important. Each map tells a small story. This isn't unlike what Tom Hole tried to do when he aimed to create real, lived-in locations. But while Sandy often forgoes the realism, he still wants to have a narrative. I've already made a video on this topic in which I theorized about what those stories might be, so I won't go into detail. Also, yes, I will be making a video like that about the first Doom as well. You can stop asking. But to give a few examples again, we need look no further than Suburbs, where he recreated his actual homes. He even used hellish decorations as stand-ins for an entertainment center or his wife. The former inhabitants of Suburbs were all shoved into a single building, gushing out the door. Or take Gotcha, which used to be a city center, but is now a mess of crumbling buildings swimming in a sea of blood. Even the chasm was based on a nightmare of his, where he had to walk on narrow ledges over dark pits. And once more, Fortress of Mystery, where the infighting between the two demon races is hinted at by the scenery. The Kerkedemon area is full of Baron of Hell corpses, and the Baron of Hell area is full of Kerkedemon corpses. I think a lot of it is meant to be interpretative. He often used textures that look out of place or clash with the rest of the level, like walls dotted with random grotesques, a house made of fire blue, and so on. I think a good comparison is to the works of Hieronymus Bosch. Places where even the logic of the world seems to fall apart, giving way for otherworldly abominations. I live for stuff like that. I love interpreting abstract art and trying to find meaning in it. And so, almost the entirety of my WAD is based on that video I made about Doom 2. The first level is a train station which bleeds into a subway system. You have a prison with a panopticon, a skyscraper with a massive lift, and even a giant volcano serving as a portal to hell. I wanted to use all the maps to tell the story of how Doom Guy gets around. So I totally get why Sandy considers Fortress of Mystery to be his best map. It really has everything from weird shapes to an interesting gimmick and hidden lore. And while I don't think it's my best map, there's something like that in my own WAD. Now again, if you haven't played it yet, please skip to this part in the video, because this is a huge spoiler. 3, 2, 1. I'm talking about my version of myhouse.wad. This was something I'd started working on long before even conceiving of this project. The idea was, how would Sandy Petersen have made one of the most popular, most experimental Doom maps of all time back in 1994? While the level itself might feel a bit out of place in my MegaWAD, I fully believe that he would have been all over something like this. A friendly family home hiding a sinister secret? Engine gimmicks being used to convey the idea of both time and space falling apart? The whole map serving as a metaphor for grief and dealing with your inner demons? Come on, this has Sandy written all over it. People like John Romero might have been frothing at the mouth at how intense combat can be with modern source ports. But Sandy Petersen? I think he'd lose his mind if you showed him how to create an impossible space. And it really makes me wish he picked up the pen, or rather the mouse, again to make a MegaWAD of his own. Where is his sigil? I'd love to see how he's able to incorporate his design philosophy when he's no longer held back by the limitations of old. Sandy Petersen's levels may come across as amateurish, even downright terrible at first glance. But if you take the time to try to understand them, you too can appreciate them. It seems that for him, video games went beyond just cool gameplay. He was advocating for something that wouldn't be taken seriously until decades later. And I think that's really worth admiring. Anyway, do let me know what you think down below. I know there's a lot of Sandy fans out there, so tell me your favorite aspects of his levels. And if you haven't already, go check out my MegaWAD. And of course, leave a like, subscribe, and donate to my Patreon. Anything is appreciated. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Have a Sandyful day, and goodbye.